course, now I was going to tell you that Brenda saw the program, my wife Brenda saw the program, and she said, what the heck is a walk down Mammary Lane with Westy? Yeah, the Mammarys come back to life. Okay, I'm gonna go out here. I told the guys I wouldn't embarrass them because we kind of told them ahead of time. So it's a walk down Mammary Lane. And so we're going to interview a few of these. How do you like this, Harry? Pretty good, eh? Who we got down here? Stu Smale. Stu, come on over here. Let's give him a round of applause. Hey, Stu, did you pay for all these people to be here? Say yes. Yeah.
I'll say yes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I was actually going to use this one, but that's okay. So, Stu, obviously, everybody knows about, I think everybody knows, about the red and white business. So today we have a Royal Winter Fair with red and white Holsteins being shown. And let's give the people that don't know how it all started here in Perth County. Take it away.
Thanks, Gary. Well, in 1964, I was asked by Larry Moore in Wisconsin to pick up red and whites in Canada, and I wasn't greeted too righteously in the first start because everybody seemed to be ashamed that they had one. But later on, in the late 60s and early 70s, we had about 200. We did have over 200 Holstein breeders from Switzerland at our place through time, and it was a learning experience for me in that they said at one time the black-white Holsteins in Europe were better than weren't as good as the red and whites. The red and whites were better, and so to make up for that, the black-white Holstein breeders start buying cows and bulls from the United States and Canada. Well, that put a new emphasis on red and whites then, and the Red and White Dairy Cattle Association was formed in the United States first because neither Canada nor the United States would accept them in their breed. Canada did accept the red and whites, I believe it was in 72, and the United States had in 71. Anyway, our first experience showing was I was in Wisconsin at the time, and Ken and Gary took the herd to a local fair, and we had our first red and whites in the show, and they dumped her right on the bottom. I'm not sure why, because when we went to Western Fair, we got second with her, and we went Perth Holstein Club, we got second with her there. So I'm not sure, I don't even know who the judge was, but I don't know how he feels about that. Anyway, in 82, at the Red and White Show in Wisconsin, we had the grand champion, and 2 years later, her sister was grand champion. So that was one of our better achievements, I'd say. So, I don't know.
So Stuart, yeah, we're going to ask him a question before you leave him in hand. He's a great guy. And, you know, you judged a lot of shows when I was a kid, and by the way, I was never first either, okay? But anyway, I was trying to talk myself into being first, but you never allowed me to do that. But at the same time, so the red and white business, really, you were president of this Holstein Club in 1972, and that's the time that you were talking about starting to show these red and whites, and you got bombed down in Madison. So up until then, there was a time when they wouldn't even let cows being registered that were red and white, and they were all basically shipped out or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So give that history. Why was that happening? Why did they not allow red and whites?
Well, they were a most undesirable color in the early days, and it took some convincing. I was a very unpopular fellow for quite a few years in this county because I was champion red and whites. So
you must have been pretty darn proud when the Royal Winter Fair and a lot of fairs around were showing lots of red and whites. And of course, there's a good red and white show now in the Royal. That must have made you pretty proud.
Yeah, it certainly was. But I think I think the fact that the market really opened up for red and whites in Europe, they wanted to catch up and ahead of the black and whites again. That's one of the things that helped us quite a bit.
And of course, you were the first one. I remember going to Ken's and breeding cows, and even you were around then. I breed cows over at your barn at the heifer barn across the road. And that was one of the first barns I ever saw with a black and white cow and a red and white cow. And Ken, I think it's still there, isn't it? It's a red and white cow and a black and white cow. And I think that was the first barn I ever remember seeing with the red and white cow and the black and white cow on the same side of the barn.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Could be right. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't want to put. So, Stuart, can you tell us how old you are today?
I was 90 last Sunday.
Let's give him a round, guys. Wow, what a guy. Stuart Smale, a master breeder and a red and white, really cut the furrow for red and white Holsteins. We appreciate you talking to us, and we appreciate you bringing your whole darn family here tonight. And guys, he did tell me if you want to have a free beer later, he's on, okay? Thanks, Stuart. We really appreciate it. It's always nice, and actually, he wasn't just a one-time master breeder. He was a two-time master breeder, and I think that's when Ken was involved and everything else. And boy, it's sure good to see Downydale Farms over the years do so well. Where's Murray McGonigal, Donnie Stevens, Steve Dolson? Who we got over here, Dave? Oh, you got them both at your table? Oh, yeah, but we'll get these over here first, Dave. Okay? Where's Don? Oh, where's Steve? Steve, you're supposed to put your hand up, okay? Karen, you couldn't get him to put his hand up. Of course, Steve is the chairman now of Gay Lee Foods. Who all has shares in Gay Lee Foods? Hands up. Doesn't matter if they're common or preferred or whatever. Yeah, well, Steve, the ones that didn't put your hand up, I think they want to buy, okay? So, of course, Steve is supposed to give you this, Steve.
Oh,
This
thanks,
is supposed
Gary.
to be very professionally done. Okay?
Can you hear me?
Steve, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, test. Okay.
Test.
A master breeder from Legacy Holsteins right here, Steve is. He's a current chairman of the board at Gay Lee Foods, past president of this Holstein club back in 2003. Steve initiated the Breeders' Cup into the club schedule, and since Perth started it, the program has spread right across Ontario and actually to a lot of the breeds, not just the Holstein breed. This initiative, Steve, with this initiative and a few others, Steve's going to be presented, as we said, at the National Convention. Let's hear the story behind the development of the Breeders' Cup, Steve.
Okay, Gary. I'll go back to 2004. Karen, my wife, has some relatives in Australia, and we had the fortunate opportunity to go down there and visit them. Of course, going that far away and knowing that there were Holsteins down there, I made a contact with Paul Larmer and said, Paul, you've got connections through CMEX. Could you maybe find some places for me to go visit and see some cows? And he made those arrangements. And I was able to go out with Karen and I both in the Victoria area and see some nice herds. And they were very gracious. And we later on went down to Melbourne area as well and saw some more wonderful Canadian bred cattle. A lot of Canadian genetics does exist throughout Australia. But what we really noticed was most of the herds we went to wanted to show us some of their better cows that had won their on-farm competition. CMEX Australia had sponsored such a competition in their area, and they had classes for 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and such. And if you won at your county type level, you moved up to another level, and it was quite a well-developed program. So keeping that in mind, when we did get back home and being on the local Holstein Club, the next year when we were planning, I tend to throw out ideas. It's planting seeds. Sometimes they germinate, sometimes they don't. So in 2005, it didn't quite take off, but 2006 it did. Hans Weber was president of the club that year, and Hans is very much a let's just do it guy, and so we just did it. We made the program up very much to promote local breeders' cattle, and came up with one class for 3 or more lactations. and it had to be bred by the local breeder or a breeder in Perth County. The animal had to stay in the county and be there for judging. The judge would come to the farm just like they had in Australia. And so with that in mind, we opened up the program in March of that year, and Brad Sales was the first judge. And Brad was familiar with the program in Australia with the connection of CMEX. He was very much aware of how the program worked there, and that we were looking for cattle in their working clothes, not all dressed up with their top lines done and uttered up type thing. And so, yeah, that's where it started. We had probably 23 or so cattle in the first year, and we also recognized the top animal. We selected the top 5 in that class and recognized the top animal that would have had over 60,000 kilos. Since that time, more classes have been added, a first lactation class, and thanks to our field reps across Ontario, they took the idea and spread it to neighboring counties. A program which today, this past year, had 22 farms competing in Perth County with 58 animals, I believe, competing for the, I guess there were 3 actual classes. There's a class for 60,000 kilos or more production as well. And so it's great to see the program has taken off. We have few opportunities to promote our cattle, and this gives the breeders one more chance to have an opportunity to have a class winner, to talk about something to promote. And every time we have that opportunity, we should take it. Again, friendly competition. Today, at the end of the program, we meet in the evening for a barbecue, and it's been graciously hosted by the Pfister family for the last 3 years. And it's a nice evening where, again, everyone that competed gets to see pictures of the cows that were in the competition that day and just have a good social evening. So a friendly competition includes people of all backgrounds, freestall, actually probably tie stall, we're all one, and we're looking for that kind of cow that's going to be the Canadian kind, that's the cow that'll last a long, long time in your herd.
And Steve, you're looking at me. Do you think I should be in the freestall barn? Is that what you're saying? He looks at me when he says that, right? Yeah, right. Thanks a lot, Stevie. But anyway, that's been a great program, Steve. And Steve's gone on to do a lot of things, past president of GenCorp, and of course a lot of different things with Gayle now. He has to put up with Karen, his wife. But he built her a new house and everything's going along good, right, Karen? Okay. So let's give Steve a round of applause for giving us a lot of information on the sweepstakes. I'm going to get over here to Murray McGonigal. How are you doing over there, Murray? Did you bring that whole table with you too? Murray, you're making me walk farther than I've ever walked before. Murray McGonigal, Hill Pond Holsteins, just north of Shakespeare in the hills of Northern Stope, right, Murray? And he bred cattle that were probably better in feet and legs than anything else, because if they had to walk up those hills, they had to be good, right, John McIntosh? They'd have to be. So Murray's got a bit of a story to tell. If everybody knows, we used to send cattle from Perth County down to the London Championship Show. So Murray's got a bit of a story to tell, I think, about that. And he said he'd keep it clean, so that's good.
Gary, I think I'm probably the only master breeder in Perth County that was born in the city. I didn't know much then, I don't know much now, but years ago we used to have a competition when the champion show was in London, and the champion show was always before our own local black and white show, so we had to get a herd together to take to the show, and of course you were allowed 2 animals from one exhibitor, but the rest you had to put together, and it was quite a competition amongst the counties. We liked to beat Oxford once in a while, and Oxford liked to beat us, but we used to have a lot of fun because the committee'd have to get out a week or a month before and see if they could find these cattle, and you'd get into a few barns and you'd find a real good cow, and you'd say to the guy, well, you should take her to the show. Well, she's not good enough. and I haven't got time. And we spent a lot of time on the road, Sam Johnson, and there was a few of us older fellows that are older now. We weren't so old then, but one of our memories was Sam and I found a cow just up by Milverton and running into a green feed with a wagon, and it was raining, it was muddy, and Sam said to me, "You got rubber boots on, you go in and find her and see what she is." And we pulled her out, and she was a pretty good cow, and I said Sam, well, we got to go see the owner and see if he'll send her. And went into the barn, and he said, "No, you can take her if you want to, but I don't want anything to do with her." When she went on to be grand champion at the championship show in London, and I was standing beside Jerry Freiberger with High Sallow Farm, and I was leading the cow, and I said to Jerry, "Really a good cow, there's only one thing wrong with her. You don't own her, nor do I." But we had a lot of fun them days, and I think some of the younger breeders kind of miss that. It took us a bit of time, but we were challenged to do it and enjoyed it.
So Murray, maybe I missed it, who did breed the cow?
It was Bill Miller's cow up near Milverton.
Yep, I know Bill.
And a great big cow. She had a set of horns on her, but she never got to the show if the committee hadn't gone out and looked. And there was a few others. There was one at Kenny Switzer's at corner over there, and the late Dalton Malcolm and Will McGraw were there, and he said we could take her if we train her. And he come back the next day to the committee, and they said, "Well, last time we seen Wilmot, he was heading over the hill. He said, hanging onto the rope, and his feet were going about 20 feet every step. We haven't seen him since." So, but we did have a lot of fun.
I think we've all trained cows like that. Yeah.
Another thing we did here, we started a program one time. We were trying to promote kids that maybe their dad didn't have purebreds, and they could join 4-H, but they didn't have a good calf. So we had breeders to donate a heifer calf and a bull calf to the young lad, and he would raise the bull calf up and sell it and pay for the heifer calf. And we thought we'd maybe get some of these boys interested in breeding better cows or having purebred cows. Stuart Anderson donated one, and I was talking to Brian, and Brian said the chap that got his calf that year come back and worked for Anderson's later in life, and he was there for 40 years, so we did some good there.
So, and you know, when you say that story, I know Ken and Sharon Weitzel are here, and I remember Ken Weitzel telling me, and he became a master breeder too, in the barn. And good to see you're still awake, Julie. Julie, I'm not making fun of your mom and dad, okay? But anyway, that's how Francis Weitzel and Ken Weitzel got started, with the bull and a heifer calf. And you guys started that program, and I thought to get people into purebred cattle, it was one of the best programs going.
I guess it didn't last that long. It mustn't have been too good, huh?
That means they got such good herds and they bred so well that it turned out to be really well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's give Murray McGonigal, Hill Pond Holsteins, a big round of applause. Thanks, Murray. You know, everybody that, come on over here, Donnie. In beside Murray Grant here, it's going to be a little tough getting to you. You're not a big guy at all, Murray, you're just like me. Anyway, Don Stevens, I don't think anybody that bred cows in Perth County didn't know the Stone Town prefix. And of course, once we got to the black and white shows, and as Murray was talking about the London Championship show, I'll never forget Stone Town. I was a kid then, Donnie. And Frank Meisner, of course, and all the guys that you had helping you show. You'd come in with the cows off the truck, and I'd think to myself, geez, I don't know how anybody's going to beat some of those cows. But Donnie's got a bit of a story about our first, and we're going to talk to Dave Carson in a second before he runs away on us. But go ahead, Donnie. So talk to us about the first cow, or the best cow we ever had in the first Perth County sale.
I'll give you the whole rundown on the first cow and the best cow ever in the Perth County Holstein.
This mic's better. You got to hold it. There you go.
Hello. Everybody says they know me by my voice, so anyway, I want to tell you about the first Perth County Club sale, and the top cow in the sale, I'll give you the whole history of her. Anyway, Gordon Bell and I were on the selection committee for the first Perth County Club sale back in 1975. And we went into the Don Simpson herd one night just before milking time and went in the barn, and Doug Foley, I think his name was the herdsman there for years. And anyway, we looked the whole herd over and spotted this good young cow in the box stall. And Gordon and I both kind of liked her, so anyway, we asked Doug where Don Simpson was, and he said, well, I haven't seen Don since this morning because he's got another one of those bad migraine headaches that he gets, and he'll be up at the house. So anyway, away we went to the house and had a visit with Don and told him we were there getting selections for the sale, and Don was pretty well straight to the point, and right away he said, I don't think I got anything good enough for that sale, he said. He said, as a matter of fact, the show committee for London Fair was in here the other day, and they didn't even see anything good enough to show. So anyway, Gordon kind of winked at me, and we said, well, we kind of like that young cow in the box stall there, Don. What about her? What's the story on her? So anyway, he told us her pedigree and what she was sired by and everything, and we said, well, we'd take her for this sale. And he says, well, do you think she's good enough? And we said, yeah, we think she'd do all right. So anyway, we quickly got her signed up before he changed his mind, and anyway, a few minutes later, I said to Don, I said, you know, Gordon and I kind of think that this cow in a month's time might be good enough to show. And I said to him, I said, if you would get her trained and get her feet trimmed and give her a couple of baths like you do with cows, but whatever you do, don't clip her hair. So anyway, he said, I'll get her entered, he said, and I said, well, I'll take her to the show for you, be glad to do that. So anyway, off we went to the show, and she was looking really good a month later at showtime, and we got her fitted with our cows, and Frank Meisner showed her and went out in the 3-year-old ring, and Lowell Lindsay was out there leading a really good young cow, and anyway, Lindsay ended up first and we ended up second, and I kind of thought to myself that maybe we could have won that class, and even the judge kind of suggested that it was a close placing, but anyway, so back in the barn, tied the cow up, and Lindsay come right over. And if you know Lowell Lindsay, he knew a good animal, and anyway, he wanted to know, where the hell did you guys get this cow? He says, I didn't see her in your string the other day. And so we told him all about her and knew right away then that he knew she was a good one. So anyway, when the show was over that night, which often happens, there was a few breeders come around after the show and said just as I had thought, that we maybe could have won that day. But anyway, that's showbiz if you've ever showed cattle. So anyway, on we went to Stratford show, and the famous leadsman Bert Stewart was judging the Stratford show, and he made Empress Anna first 3-year-old best udder of the class and grand champion of the show, and Don Simpson was on cloud 9. And I'll tell you, he's not here anymore, but he sure as hell knew how to throw a good party. So anyway, next up came sale time, and of course she had created a lot of interest, and anyway, she came in the ring at the sale, and Dave Carson sold her to Oak Ridge's farm at Toronto for $15,300, and that record still stands today after 42 sales, isn't it? And anyway, they took her to the Royal Winter Fair, and she was second 3-year-old, and I think Bert even showed her for Oak Ridges. And she ended up being all Canadian 3-year-old, and Oak Ridge has sold her for a tidy profit, I understand, to go to Japan. And of course, what often happens with the cow leaves the country like that, that was the last we ever heard of Empress Anna. So anyway, that's the story. And in closing, I'd just like to congratulate the Holstein Club on their 100 years. And I'd especially want to make mention of a chap that became a good friend of mine and I thought a lot of, Floyd Willows and his wife Verna, who were secretary, treasurer, and everything for the Holstein Club for years. And their daughter Elaine carried on their tradition for many years. And somebody said that Elaine's retired, but from the few times I've been talking to her lately, I don't think she's very retired. She's still doing a great job for the Holstein Club. And in closing, I'd just like to mention that we should thank Dave and Brad Carson for 42 great sales and all the great work they do with their facility for the Holstein breeders of Perth County and of the whole area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Don Stevens. Great story. Yeah, Donnie, I think you were right, and everybody remembers that cow, and I remember being at the Royal as a kid that year. I was always a kid. And she was one heck of a cow. And Donnie, he never pulled her out of the sale. She was a great cow. You guys had picked her out, and the sale committee really felt that she was going to be in the sale, and Don Simpson said, yep, she's still there. So that was another great thing for Don Simpson. And you're right, Donnie, his daughter, or his niece, Elaine Standyman, picked up a lot of that good work. Okay, the next one and the last one, he's over here somewhere. Dave Carson, put up your, oh, there he is. I have never worked with Dave Carson very much, of course, but every time I do, he calls me Windy. I don't know why. Dave, come on over here. Got a few of the family members here tonight. I always call this guy Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, Carson, sorry. Canadian Imperial Bank of Carson, just out of Listowel. And of course, Donnie just had a great story. And you've done a lot of club sales. Is it Elaine, is it 42? Okay. 1974 was the first one. So Bill, what's that? Alicia, what's that make it? 74, and this is 16. So there was 42 years. 42 years. So Dave Carson has been doing it along with his son Brad lately. David, what's some of your memories of the Perth County Holstein Club?
What do you want now? You always want something.
That's why I left him to last.
Gary and I have had a few good chuckles over the years. I always thought I was pretty well rounded out, but he's putting the rush on. Anyhow, it's been a great sales series. I think it's the longest running sales series in Ontario, or maybe even in Canada, for a club, county club, and it's changed a little. We used to know a month ahead what was coming and get a prepared catalog and so on, and now it's everybody's so busy and stuff. It gets down to the last minute sometimes. And back in the first year or two, or first few years, all the directors used to come and clip the cows and wash the cows, and that was a lot of fun. I don't ever remember you coming.
I usually got up by
Murray Grant and Murray McGonigal and Donnie Stevens, all them young lads, they all came and worked real hard, and we had a good time. That Empress Anna cow was a real favorite. She's the highest cow that I ever sold by dollar. But I can tell you, to the best of my knowledge, in 42 years, there was never a false price or a cow that wasn't paid for in full when the sale was over. Every cow was paid for. I kind of remember Dave Weidman and Vern Hoover buying some of the emperors and stuff at that time. They built a great herd. That was just, they were close to me, so I remembered that. Harry Van Ness was a great supporter too back in those days. But it's been great. I enjoyed it. I'd like to thank the people of Perth County for helping me get along. About 4 more payments and I'll be able to have the car paid for. Then we'll work on the farm after that. What else do you want to say?
You want me to ask you a question?
No.
Because you know it might not be a question you want to answer.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what's the approximate number of cattle? I'm talking beef, dairy, everything you've ever sold. What's the number of head that you think you have sold? What was the year you started business in?
72.
So 1972, and that was when we had our first club sale. No?
74.
74 was the first club sale.
That was Doug McNeil from Godrich. It was his dispersal. And Glenn McNeil was him and I were both about 18. And it was the first time he ever read pedigrees, and it was the first sale we ever had at our place.
Now, I also heard you mention a Schufelt. Dr. Wayne Schufelt, Tavistock Vets are one of the sponsors of the night tonight, and Wayne Schufelt's dad, that was another dispersal you had near the start, wasn't it?
No, Burton was an agent for UCO at Kincardine, and he traveled the country up there shipping cull cows and beef cows, and him and his wife, my mother and dad were friends, and Burton kind of helped me a lot. We used to travel the country up there. I remember going up there one Friday night and staying overnight, and the Saturday morning we went out and I bought 100 head of cattle by noon. You couldn't begin to do that now. But Burton was a great asset to me and helped me a lot.
So that's where that story. I know Wayne Schufelt, who is our vet and is still a good veterinarian, and I think he's been awarded awards nationally and internationally, and I knew there was some connection there. So how many cattle or how many head in total? And you've sold goats, and I think you've sold sheep, and you've sold horses a lot, and beef cattle a lot, dairy cattle a lot. How many head do you think you've actually gone through? That's not only at your place, but farm sales like at ours and all that kind of stuff. How many do you think you sold? Just give us an approximation.
Yeah, well, I have no idea. I just wish I had to put $1 in the bank every time I sold a cow. But no, I would have no idea to give you an idea at all, but not near enough. We still got to have a few more. But I was going to tell you something. I didn't get a chance to see you before this. You hear about Glenn Standeven and Elaine?
No, I didn't.
Well, they went to the doctor the other day for their yearly checkup. And Glenn went in and the doctor checked them all over and he said, seeing this maple syrup season and everything, you're really in good shape. Is there any questions or anything? Well, Glenn said, don't think so. Doctor said, what about your sex life? Well, Glenn says, it's not too bad. First time's all right, and the second time I sweat a bit. Well, the doctor said, don't worry about it. Be all right. So Elaine came in, and he asked her the same question. Said, Ma, you're in great shape. Lovely looking lady, you're in great shape. Any questions? And she said, no. He said, well, what about your sex life? How's it? Oh, it's all right, she said. Well, he said, Glenn was in here, and he said the first time's fine, but the second time he sweats a bit. Well, Elaine says, that's understandable. The first time's January, the second time's July.
Hey, David Carson, let's give him a round of applause. He's been a great guy. We get to have, in the days gone by when I did a lot of pedigree work, and Glenn McNeil, I think's here, he did a lot of pedigree work, and of course with Dave. You never went through a sale when you didn't laugh about something. Did you have anything to say, Elaine? Oh, okay. Hey, and Scotty, their grandson, is selling mocktails. Cover your ears for stuff like that. I should have told you that about, sorry guys, about Carson. I got to get back to my program. Let's give all those good breeders from the past a round of applause.